Welcome back everyone, Garlane here bringing you another Neverwinter video, and today's video is highly anticipated as this is the Mod 16 build and guide for the Warlock. Now this video is going to be long, it's going to be in depth, I'm going to try to be as blunt as I can, but we have a lot of information to cover. This is the first build and guide video I've put out since they've done the class balances as well as all the other Mod 16 changes, including companions, etc. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. Now keep in mind, of course, this is an endgame build and guide. You might not be here yet, but this is what you should striving to achieve. Now, however, of course, I do use and utilize the loadout systems. The loadout systems can be very expensive, so I will mention along the way, if you don't use loadouts in particular, I'll give you kind of some tips and hints to use if you only use or can't afford only one loadout. Let's get started. First on the list, I do want to talk about the attributes. They have changed now in Mod 16. Now, me personally, I go Intelligence and Charisma. I would highly encourage everyone to at least go into Intelligence. Now, with Charisma, we are mainly taking this for the recharge speed. However, we also get Companion Influence, so you're getting double bang for your buck. Now, the attributes are a very low-end statistic. So, there are some Warlocks that like to spec into Dexterity for the crit severity and movement speed. There are some Warlocks that like to go into Constitution for maximum hit points as well as AP regeneration. There is no wrong way of doing this. However, me personally, I like the Intelligence Charisma. Now, like I said, if you do want Dexterity or Constitution, that's up to you. This bonus is so small that it's almost irrelevant for the most part. There is no wrong way to do this unless you're like taking Strength for some reason. So keep that in mind. Next, I'm going to wrap the race in as well. So we are Dragonborn. Now, Dragonborn is considered best in slot at this point because it does get a 3% raw DPS increase. However, we know that Dragonborn is locked behind a paywall. So unless you get extremely lucky and get a shiny metallic Dragonborn, which comes out of the legendary drop rate for out of a lockbox, you will have to pay for Dragonborn. That's completely up to you. If you are min-maxing, I encourage you to pursue Dragonborn. However, other than that, the racial abilities are very low, just like the attributes. It doesn't really matter what race. If you're not going for Dragonborn, then I suggest you go for a race that has a high intelligence role or whatever you prefer your character to look like. If you want to be a half-elf or a dwarf, that's completely up to you. The racial abilities are very small of what they actually add to your overall character. Like I said, Dragonborn is considered best in slot. However, if you don't have that, that's going to be up into the individual to decide on what they want their Warlock to look like. The next things on the list are going to be the boons, the companions, and the mounts. Now, all three of these don't change between my loadouts. They're exactly the same, so there is no difference. However, you can tweak these to your liking. For instance, for the campaign, as far as the boons, we are up to Mod 16, which means you can have a total of 70 boon points available to you. And these bonuses, it's up to the player to decide to make up statistical difference if they're missing statistics. For instance, if you need a little more crit strike. However, I discourage this as you can really cap out your stats with gear alone. If I was going to go for boons, as you can see, I take all the power boons as well as all the HP boons. And then for right now, we are taking just a little bit of DPS. For instance, some Warlocks will take 5 out of 5 for Marathon Runner and diminished some of their DPS ones. You can clearly see that we don't have enough points to take all of the DPS boons currently, so I don't have anything in the Dino Power. I don't fight a lot of dinosaurs currently, so that's up into the individual player. Now, when we're talking about the master boons, some people like to take Deathly Rage. Just remember that this would be more inclined for an AoE loadout, so it is only a chance on kill to do the following. I like static buffs, so I always take the encounter one. So chance on the encounter to do the following. If you're doing a solo build, focused retaliation is very good if you're doing dungeon solo or even solo play. Now, another one is the crit severity here is going to be up to you. I personally prefer the action point gain as well as the recovery speed. Now, you can sacrifice the action point gain if you want the crit severity, but if you're following my guide and build right down to the letter, you're not going to need this crit severity. So this is the boons for all of my loadouts. Like I said, these do not change, so I'll leave this up here for a second if you'd like to pause the video. Next on the list, we do have our mounts. Now, currently I am using the Bat Swarm. However, if you are lucky enough to have multiple legendary mounts, you can play with this. For instance, if you want to be a super greedy player, you can use Tensors, which will just self-buff yourself. However, if you want to go ahead and help your team, you can use the Bat Swarm. That way you are buffing yourself as well as debuffing the mobs or single target, whatever the situation is. And if you really just want to help your team overall, you can still use the T-Rex. So as far as your combat power, that is up to the individual of the player of what you want to use here. 9 times out of 10, I use the Bat Swarm on all the loadouts just because. Now, as the equipped power, I use the 10,000 power. However, you can make up your stats here with whatever you have. If you need the armor pen, you need the crit, you need the accuracy. This all depends on what mounts you have available to you and what stats they provide you. I specifically choose the 10,000 raw power. Now let's take a look at our stable. Now, in my own personal opinion, most of these are all irrelevant for the most part. Unfortunately, I think the insignia bonus needs a huge overhaul. These are very minor in the statistics that they give you as far as the insignia bonuses go themselves. I even know some warlocks as well as other players that don't even care about these abilities. They only slot the abilities so they can use dominance insignias to push their overall power even higher. Now, me personally, I am using Shepherd's Devotion, Barbarian's Revelry, Assassin's Covenant, Oppressor's Reprieve, as well as Cavalry's Warning. But like I said, all of these bonuses are so minor that you can practically use whatever you want here. Now, as I mentioned, some players are just picking bonuses that only give them availability to dominance insignias. Now, if you are still missing statistical caps and you need to balance out your statistics, this is a good place to do it. If you are already hitting all your statistical caps, then of course you want to just stack as much dominance as you possibly can to push your overall power as well as your companion influence. So you can see what I have listed here. And like I said, these bonuses, unfortunately, the mount insignia bonuses, in my personal opinion, need a huge overhaul and update. These bonuses are very, very small. Moving right along, now we're going to talk about the companions. Right now, the meta is, of course, going to be non-summon companions. So we do have the Bullet Pup. However, you can use Rainer's Pocket Wiki and search for something that you might need as far as statisticals to hit your cap. It's all about hitting those caps. I can't tell you guys how to balance your own statistics. That's going to be up to you as a player. But for instance, the Bullet Pup gives you combat advantage, defense, and power. So moving into the equipment, of course, you're going to want 3 rank 15 bonding runestones. I believe it gives you 210% overall. The companion gear, there is only one of the new pieces as far as mod 16 goes that I'm personally using. That's going to be the choke chain, which gives me accuracy combat advantage. And then I use 2 heroic pieces to push my combat advantage over where it needs to be. So the heroic is going to be armor pen and combat advantage. And like I said, depending on your own individual statistics, you are going to have to balance your stats accordingly. So I, for instance, have Empowered Runestone rank 15s in all 6 slots. However, if you have to slot a different runestone to hit your hard caps on your statistics, that again is going to be up to you. Now, as far as our enhancement power goes, I personally use Potent Precision. Now, this is a chance on hit to increase your companion's critical severity up to 5% for 15 seconds. So not only does this give you 5 more crit severity, there's a plethora of things you can use here. For instance, a lot of people currently use just potency, right? Potency gives you an extra 2,000 power. However, I sacrificed the 2,000 power for some crit severity. My power is actually fairly high. I don't need 2,000 power. The crit severity for me personally is more important than the 2,000 power. However, if you are still missing, like I said, statistics, here's one with accuracy on it. If you're still lacking accuracy, here's one with 2,000 accuracy. I would say most DPS players currently are using potency for the 2,000 power. However, I do choose to use Potent Precision, which gives you that 5% crit severity. Now, of course, this is coming from a legendary companion, guys. If you don't know how the new companion system works, I recommend you watch my companion guide. That way you know exactly what's going on here. Let's go ahead and move into the companion bonuses. Now, everyone currently is using the Velociraptor here, or whatever it's called, the Raptor. This is broken. This is not working correctly, and I would advise you using it. However, I can't control what you do. Now, currently this is broken. If you have it at legendary status, it's actually giving you 10,000 power, even if you're not in a group. Now, if it was working as intended, everyone in your group has to have this for a total of 5 times, which then would give you that maximum amount. However, it is currently broken. A lot of people are utilizing this. I would highly encourage you, not to. Don't get used to it, because it is going to ultimately get fixed. Now, what I should use, of course, is going to be the Siege Master. Now, this increases the power of my at-wills by 4%, and then it goes to 8% on the Stronghold map. However, we never do anything on the Stronghold map. It's all about that 4% at-will power. As far as my defense slot goes, I am using the Minstrel. That's going to be 4,000 power, and then the 200 or 2,000 awareness we don't care about. We're strictly using this defensive slot for 4,000 power. Our other offensive slots are going to be the Mercenary, which is another 4,000 power and 2,000 combat advantage. Our last offensive slot is going to be the Baby Deep Crow, which is 8,000 power. And then finally, we do have our utility slot, and I use an Archer's Guard for yet another 4,000 power and 2,000 defense. Now, all of these companions are legendary, so I am getting the maximum bonus from these companions. However, again, you guys need to balance your statistics and hit the hard caps for what they need to be. So if you want to sacrifice some power to hit, if you need more combat advantage, if you need more accuracy, if you need more critical strike, the companion system is a good way to do it. However, if you are following my guide to a T, this is the setup that you are going to ultimately want to strive for. Now, very briefly, we will look at the bolster. Now, like I said, if you're unfamiliar with the new companion system in Mod 16, I highly recommend you watch my video on it. The bolster is going to increase your overall statistics. You can get a total of 15%. Now you can clearly see that I have 14.5%, which means I am missing a legendary companion. So I do need another legendary companion, which I'll probably upgrade the Staldorf here. The Staldorf has 8,000 combat advantage at legendary. A lot of players are actually using him to hit that combat advantage statistical hard cap. But right now, as it sits, I'm at 14.5. It's more than enough personally for me. However, eventually I will cap out and get that 15%. Alright, moving right along. I currently run 3 different loadouts. Now, if you can't afford multiple loadouts, there's nothing wrong with that, but I highly encourage you to keep grinding and get to the point where you can follow this guide to the letter T, and you will be more than equipped to do endgame content. However, if you can't currently afford loadouts, I completely understand that. This is a lot of money in game to accomplish all of this. I run 3 separate loadouts, 2 for AoE and 1 for single target. Now, we are going to talk about the AoE builds first, and then we will move into the single target. So as you can see, I have 2 AoE on the screen right now. One is the AoE Consume and one is the AoE Burn. So let's go ahead and talk about my AoE Consume. On your screen right now is going to be the gear. There's not much difference in the gear between all of the loadouts. There are some minor adjustments. Keep in mind also that this isn't 100% complete. I am missing a few items. I need one more artifact to push my overall stats. I am missing the raid ring, and I still need my single target weapon set. But let's go ahead through this. Hopefully we can cover everything. Right off the bat, we're going to look at the Protege's Charmed Hat. This is what you're going to buy with the seals from doing Lair of the Mad Mage. However, there are different versions of this available. So, for instance, you could get the Spy Guild helmet, which is Seals of the Mountain, which is very easy to obtain. And then once you get some runs in of Lair of the Mad Mage, then you'll be able to purchase this with the seals. And it's just purely for the 5% damage in the Undermountain. Next on the list, we do have the Hag's Rags. Of course, this is a previous module item coming from Mod 14. If you were never able to obtain one of these, I highly suggest you go get one, or you wait till Mod 17 when the newer stuff gets released. However, we're not currently talking about Mod 17 right now. This is only Mod 16, so it's up to you. If you want to go back to Mod 14 and try to farm the Hag's Rags, that's completely up to you. It is currently best in slot, and that's going to be for the Sniper's perk, which does stack twice, which we will talk about. Your ranged powers do 3% more damage. Now again, we have an old piece of gear here, the Teared Grips, and we're going to use this for the encounter power damage, does 3% more damage. And finally, wrapping out the gear, I'm personally actually using the Primal Boots. The sole reason for this on the AoE builds is when you kill an enemy, you gain 3% action point gain. Now, we know in Mod 16 how slow the AP gain now currently is. These boots actually really help a lot. So in an AoE situation, when you're slaughtering all your AoE trash mobs, you're going to be gaining your AP points back a lot faster. Now, as far as the armor reinforcements go, it's another opportunity for you to balance your statistics. If you're missing, armor pen or accuracy or whatever the case may be, you can make it up in armor reinforcements. Armor reinforcements +1 are giving 880 statistics. So you can see here the modification is 880 power, and I do just stack that on all 4 pieces. Now, for specifically the AoE Consume build, we're going to be utilizing Curse Bite, which we will get into when I talk about the powers. However, for the 3-piece set, believe it or not, folks, yes, that is right, we are still using the Orcus set. So that is the Baphomet's Talisman, the Demogorgon's Belt, as well as the Orcus Wand. As far as your rings go, I am using a Shadow Stalker +5 for the powers deal 2.5% more damage when you are close to your target. Now, like I said, I am missing a ring right here. This ring will be replaced. I unfortunately don't like to make my gods and videos until I'm 100% complete. However, you guys have been asking for this since Mod 16 has released, so I have released this without being complete. I am actually looking for the Ebonized Raid Ring, and it has the same effect as the Hag's Rags. The Sniper's perk does stack twice, so your ranged powers do 3% more damage. You can have that on the Ebonized Raid Ring. Now, you can also mix and match your gear. For instance, if you don't have the Hag's Rags, or for whatever reason you don't want to use the Hag's Rags, you can go ahead and get yourself 2 Ebonized Raid Rings. That's completely up to you, especially if you don't have the Shadow Stalker +5 and you're only using a Shadow Stalker +4. Well, the Ebonized Raid Ring is going to outweigh a Shadow Stalker +4, as the +4 is only 2%. So that leaves you that you can use one of the new chest piece, such as the Successor that drops out of Lair of the Mad Mage. And that is completely up to you how you go about your gear. So for me specifically, I only need 1 Ebonized Raid Ring, and just RNG is not with me right now. As far as your shirt and pants, you might as well just go ahead and get the Protege Raid shirt and the Protege Ward trousers. Now, some people actually like to use the piece that has the as long as you're over 75% stamina, you'll gain 3% DPS. There's nothing wrong with those, just, keep in mind, you are going to be dodging a lot. So if you can maintain your stamina, then be my guest. I prefer these personally for the encounter cooldowns, but to each is their own, so it's up to you what you want to use for your shirt and or your pants. As far as the weapon set goes, the Alabaster pack is by far best in slot because the overall base damage now has been increased. Warlock weapons now have 4,300 base damage, and that is the most important stat on any weapon. So you want to strive to get your Alabaster set as soon as possible. Of course, it is RNG. It could take you weeks. It could take you months. It could take you 2 days. But you do want to go ahead and get your full Alabaster set. Now, you want to specifically use this set for AoE only. This set is geared toward AoE. However, if you do use it single target, just keep in mind that you're only going to get the 5% bonus for 1 minute. Unfortunately, boss battles in Lair of the Mad Mage are going to take you longer than 1 minute. So if you're using your Alabaster for single target, just keep in mind that you're not really gaining the bonus off of it, because the bonus is falling off within 1 minute, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and talk about the armor enchantment. I'm currently using a Bark Shield. However, you can still use a Soul Forge. You can use an Elven Battle. This is all personal preference. I prefer the Bark Shield because, the Bark Shield is just really good. I can't really express how good it is. It's basically like having a armor, and that's exactly what this is. It's a Bark Shield, and it replenishes so often that I actually very rarely take damage unless I have aggro and the mob just keeps hitting me and then disperses my Bark Shield and my charges don't replenish. Now, as far as the weapon enchantment, believe it or not, I am still using a lightning enchantment. A lot of people argue with me about this. The lightning is still the way to go, especially on the Warlock and especially for the AoE Consume Build. You're utilizing Curse Bite, and you want to spread your Lesser Curse to as many trash mobs as you possibly can. And you can do this with the Lightning Enchantment fairly easy. So, in my eyes, Vorpal is best in slot. Don't get me wrong. If you guys want to use a Vorpal, there's nothing wrong with using a Vorpal. However, the Lightning does work out for this build and this setup. Also, on the artifacts, we're going to use Hellish Rebuke, the 10% damage. And then we're going to use the recharge speed 2.5% as well as the combat advantage. Now, this is where I get the remainder of my combat advantage for, so I hit my hard caps. Now, if you're already hitting your hard caps, you can change this to whatever you need. If you need accuracy, if you need armor pen, if you still need critical strike, if you want to add more health, and of course, if you're still stacking power. Now, me personally, I'll probably change this to power once I change a little more things around. Like I said, I am missing one artifact. When I get that artifact, I might still be able to hit my hard caps, thus leading me to change this for an extra 2,500 power. As far as the recharge speed goes, I consider it best in slot. However, you can go with the AP gain, you could go with the companion stat influence. That's completely up to you. The recharge in my eye is completely best in slot. Mod 16, we all have very high encounter cooldowns now. In my eyes, recharge speed is the best thing that you can get in the game currently. Also, crit severity is a valid option as it's 10%, but like I said, nothing really outweighs the importance of your recharge speed. Now, hopefully I didn't forget everything, or anything, but that should cover all the gear except your enchantments, of course. Now, for me personally, I stack Radiance across the board. There's a reason for that. I stack the power for the Radiance and offensive slots, and then I stack the HP in the defensive slots. I do use a Tenebrous enchantment, guys. This is, I don't want to say the utmost important thing, but you guys should definitely at least pick up one of these. You have an 8% chance to deal 8% of your current hit points to a maximum of 24,000. Now, previous Mod 16, 24,000 damage was nothing. Now, in Mod 16, 24,000 damage is a good bit of free bonus damage. Now, to get that maximum 24,000 damage, you are going to need over 300,000 HP. 8% of 300,000 is 24k. So you need over 300,000 to fully utilize the Tenebrous enchantment. I know it says it's only an 8% chance, but it procs fairly often, and basically that is just free damage for you. Now, I know I have a couple friends that actually will run 2 of these. The damage does not increase. All it does is give you an increased chance. So running 2 rank 15 Tenebrous actually gives you a 16% chance. I am only comfortable sacrificing 1 Radiant because, keep in mind, a Radiant enchantment at rank 15 is giving me 2,400 power. So essentially I'm sacrificing 2,400 power for an 8% chance to do 24,000 damage. Now, like I said, it does say 8%, however, it does proc a lot for me. If you don't want to use the Tenebrous, that's completely up to you. However, I would recommend it. So that should cover the gear for the AoE Consume. I don't think I missed anything except the artifacts, I guess. You want to basically strive to get all the new artifacts actively for AoE. I'm using the Werven Blades for the 12% debuff. You can use a plethora of things. I know a lot of people use the Decanter. I know some people that still use the DC Sigil for AoE. This is completely up to you. I use the knives, and it's worked out for me fairly well thus far. You want to get the Troll Ring, and then you either want to get a Staff of Flowers or you want to get a Music Box. Again, it all depends on where your statistics are and how you balance your statistics. Unfortunately, we are still using the Orcus set, so we do have to still use the Orcus Wand. But your other artifacts, you basically want to get all the new ones for right now, just because they have so many more statistics. They're considered level 80 artifacts, and now they're outweighing all the old level 70 artifacts. You can clearly see here, the item level on old artifacts at Mythic is 150. The new level 80 artifacts at Mythic are 300. So it's literally a double jump here. And you can see the statistics. For the Troll Ring here, we got 3,000 power and then another 3,000 stats. So you got 1,500 defense and 1,500 critical avoidance. So you definitely want to strive to get at least some of the new artifacts. So hopefully I haven't missed anything. We will jump into the build here and the rotation. So this is my AoE Consume Build as far as the gear goes. Alright guys, like I said, we are talking about the loadout AoE Consume. So Consume means you're going to be consuming with Curse Bite. So as far as your encounters go, we're utilizing Hellfire Ring to spread Lesser Curse as well as the DOT. We're using Fiery Bolt to spread Lesser Curse as well as Fiery Bolt hits decently hard. But finally, Curse Bite is what brings this setup all together. Your at wills, you're going to be using Hellish Rebuke with a secondary of Dark Spiral. Your class features are going to be All-Consuming Curse, which again spreads your Lesser Curse. Now this works and particularly well with the Lightning Enchantment. So you're basically going to spam your Hellish and Curse Bite as much as you can with this. Now we are using No Pity No Mercy here just for the sole fact that we don't want to have to worry about your combat advantage positioning during trash mobs. So No Pity No Mercy basically gives you permanent combat advantage as long as you're critting. Now let's look at the build itself here. We're using Double Scorch, which is, it's just irrelevant. The 10% damage to Soul Scorch is literally irrelevant for this. Next, we're using Parting Blasphemy because basically, like I said, the whole idea of this setup is the curse consume aspect. Well, every time your lesser curse is removed, you're doing additional damage. My Parting Blasphemy goes off all the time, and it's just additional damage. And we are taking that over Warlock's Curse. We're going to take Soul Desecration for permanent Soul Puppet, which is really honestly irrelevant. We're taking Executioner's Gift for the powers deal up to 20% more damage as your target's health diminishes. It's basically the same effect as the Orcus set. And Creeping Death is just really, really bad. Do not currently take Creeping Death, hands down, period. Any build that you come up with, do not take Creeping Death. It literally does like 47 damage to 50 damage. That's how bad this is. Do not use it. It needs a complete buff. If we ever get it, you know, that who knows. Finally, we're taking Wrathful Souls. Whenever your Soul Puppet attacks, your encounter cooldowns are reduced by half a second. So every 2 attacks your Soul Puppet does is going to reduce your cooldowns. Now you can take Soul Spark Recovery. You're just going to have to remember to use your Soul Sparks. However, I discourage that, as you want to remain at full sparks, because when you're at full sparks, you're going to gain, I believe, 4.5% overall DPS. So you don't want to actually use your soul sparks. And since we're going to have the permanent puppet, we might as well have the puppet do something for us. And that's it, guys. That's Mod 16 builds. You know, it's been dumbed down in Mod 16 with the whole class balancing, and that's what you got right there. As far as the AoE Consume build goes, that's pretty much it. I do use Accursed Souls as my daily. Remember, Accursed Souls actually hits twice. It is a 750 magnitude, and it does apply Lesser Curse to affected targets. And when you're using the Primal Boots, you shouldn't have any problem with your AP gain. You should have no issues popping Accursed Souls fairly often when you're clearing trash mobs. So that is wrapping up for the AoE Consume build. We'll go through a small rotation here, and then we will move on. Alright, so if we go ahead and look at my statistics here, and then I'll show you guys the AoE Consume rotation. So I am sitting at 314,000 hit points. Now these statistics are going to be all self-buffed with potions. I can actually push my power a little higher. I'm only using low potions right now. I can actually push this a little higher if I so choose. But self-buffed, we're sitting at around 200,000 power, 69,000 armor pen, which is right around the cap. Our defense is a little low. I would like to get this raised somehow, but we're at 57,000. Our critical strike is overcapped at 73,000. Accuracy is overcapped at 71,000, and our combat advantage is right around where we do need it at 118,000. Our secondary statistics are action point gain is 8.7, our recharge speed is 33%, our companion influence is 60%. I did forget to mention in the gear that I am using rank 15 darks in all my utility slots. Our movement speed is 8%, and our crit severity is 110%. So if we go ahead and do a very quick rotation, you can simply come in here, drop your Hellfire Ring, pop your Cursed Bite, pop your Fiery Bolt, and then pop your second charge of Cursed Bite. Now, of course, you want to go ahead and cast your at-wills non-stop with your Hellish. The Lightning enchantment does spread the lesser curse, like I said. That's why I like the Lightning so much. However, you still can use the Vorpal if you so choose. Now, you can mix and match this. You can pop your Fiery Bolt first, and then the Curse Bite, and then the Hellfire Ring, and the second charge of Curse Bite. Whatever you prefer, it literally doesn't matter. As long as you're killing the trash mobs fast enough, it honestly does not matter. So, whatever you want to do as far as your rotation, whether you use Hellfire first or Fiery Bolt first, it doesn't matter. Your main objective is spreading your lesser curse on as many mobs as you possibly can, and then going ahead and popping that Curse Bite, getting that Parting Blasphemy bonus damage, and your trash mob should melt fairly fast. Alright guys, in our second AoE loadout, I call my AoE Burn. So we just went through the AoE Consume. Next on the list is going to be the AoE Burn. Now there aren't any major differences other than one thing, and that of course is going to be the Lost Mouth set. So instead of using the Orcus 3-piece set, we're actually going to be utilizing the Lost Mouth set, which is going to be that 3-piece bonus here. We are still using the Lightning as our weapon enchantment. But the reason that we are using the Lost Mouth set is going to be the sheer fact of its bonus, which you can read, do an additional hit for weapon damage on a critical hit. Now you're thinking, well, in the past, the Lost Mouth, wasn't worthwhile. Well, again, in Mod 16 with the rebalance, and now that we have new weapons, the damage is actually worthwhile. It's looking at the base damage of 4,300. So every time you crit, you're going to do an extra 4,300 damage. This works out very well with this specific build, and I will mention now that both builds are valid. Whether you want to run the AoE Consume build or you want to run the AoE Burn build, they both work just fine. And we're strictly talking about Lair of the Mad Mage. If you do anything less than Lair of the Mad Mage, you're not really going to want to use the Lost Mouth setup for the sheer fact that in the scaled content, even your weapon damage gets scaled. Now, I'm not saying you can't use it, it's just not going to be as efficient. So, that's really the only change. We changed the Orca set for the Lost Mouth set, and then we will show you the difference in the build and the rotation. Alright guys, so this is my AoE Burn loadout. Which we're utilizing the Lost Mouth set, and it all basically revolves around Blades of the Vanquished armies. Now, you can you can cast your Hellfire Ring, and then followed by your Blades of the Vanquished, and you can either use Fiery Bolt, or if you prefer to use Killing Flames, that's completely up to you. This is my current setup. We're going to be using No Pity, No Mercy, as well as Dust to Dust for the extra 5% damage. The build itself, we're actually going to go ahead and take that Daily Powers now grant 12 Soul Sparks. That's irrelevant. We are going to take the 10% more damage to targets afflicted with Lesser Curse. So the whole reason we're using Hellfire Ring is this is our source of Lesser Curse. So that's why you want to make sure you're popping your Hellfire Ring or your Fiery Bolt. You want to make sure your targets are cursed. You want to jump in there with your Blades of the Vanquished and let the Lost Mouth set do the work for you. And then that's again why we are using Dust to Dust for the 5% damage. Now, if you want to use ACC and spread Lesser Curse with Hellish Rebuke, that's up to you. You need to be using the No Pity, No Mercy because we're clearing trash mobs here. You don't have time to try to position yourself to get combat advantage. So we're just using No Pity, No Mercy for 100% uptime basically on combat advantage. Like I said, with this setup, it's basically a burn setup. Both loadouts are valid. So let's go ahead and jump into a quick rotation here. Like I said, you want to be utilizing your Lesser Curse to get that bonus damage. So go ahead and pop your Hellfire Ring, pop your Blades of Vanquished armies, toss a Fiery Bolt in there, and you can see the yellow damage here. Some of that is definitely coming from Lost Mouth. Every time you crit, you are going to do additional damage. Blades of the Vanquished works very well because every time it hits, is counting that damage. So every time your blades hits and it crits, you're gaining that extra damage from the Lost Mouth set. So like I said, this works out well. Both builds, the Consume build as well as this Burn build, will work phenomenally well in Lair of the Mad Mage. So if you want to comment below and tell me which setup you're running and what you find to be better, I basically think it comes down to overall playstyle. If you prefer the Consume build, that's up to you. If you prefer the playstyle of being close and up against all your mobs, then this AoE Burn build might be for you. They both do pretty much the same amount of damage at this point. I've parsed them both over act logs, and Curse Consume, in my opinion, does outweigh this AoE Burn build. However, it 100% comes down to personal play style and how you want to play. Alright guys, and finally we're going to be moving into the single target loadout. Now as far as the gear, nothing really changes as far as the gear other than some minor substitutions. For instance, you're going to want to pick a weapon. Unfortunately for me, I'm still using the Exalted Primal because I haven't farmed enough seals to get the Burnished set yet. However, you can get the Watcher set. However, you do 100% necessary need to get one of the new Mod 16 sets. Whether it be the Watcher set, depending on if you want to put the time and dedication in farming this and trying to obtain this, or if you farm the seals and you go for the Burnished set, either one of these sets is going to be valid as far as single target goes. So that is completely up to you, and you know, if you want to farm the Watcher set, more power to you. You want to take the easy way and farm the seals and buy the Burnished set, that's completely up to you as well. Same setup on everything, Hellish Rebuke, as well as AP gain and combat advantage here. The only difference is now we are using the Vorpal for single target. So whether you have, you know, a rank 14 Vorpal or whatever rank Vorpal you have, and then the only other change in the gear is going to be the Boots of the Wild. So now we're taking out the Primal boots and moving to a more focused single target set of boots. Boots of the Wild, of course, coming from a previous mod, and it's your at-will powers do 3% more damage, which is more for single target. Like I said, you want to use those primal for AoE situations, and we're going to use the Boots of the Wild for the single target. Other than that, everything remains the same. We are using the Orcus set for single target, and then we'll jump right into the build here. Alright guys, and the single target build is a little more in-depth. You know, you have to do certain things for this to synergize appropriately. We are going to use Killing Flames, Hellfire Ring, and then Hadar's Grasp as your encounters. We are using Hellish Rebuke still, as well as Dark Spiral. We are going to mainly focus on Tyrannical Curse because you get the 15% added damage to yourself on that cursed enemy. This is a huge deal. You want to make sure you're saving your Tyrannical Curse for when you have all your stacks of risky investment, obviously. Now, as far as your class features, you can adjust these. Me personally, I just love No Pity, No Mercy because I 100% can maintain my combat advantage non-stop. Now, in single target play, if you have a tank with you, you are able to position yourself so you get your combat advantage via your positioning. However, I like to move around personally a lot, so I'm always not going to be behind the mob and the tank. And this is just personal preference. I like running No Pity, No Mercy because I know that I'm going to have 100% uptime on my combat advantage damage. However, if you are able to position yourself, depending on what content you're running and what dungeon you're running, if you are able to position yourself behind the mob and the tank, and you have the positional combat advantage, you don't have to run No Pity, No Mercy. And then you have the option to either running All-Consuming Curse, which is going to help you with your risky investment stacks, or you can actually run Flames of Empowerment. Flames of Empowerment will give you that 3% increase of damage, so it matches well with Dust to Dust. We're going to use Dust to Dust no matter what for the 5% increased damage, but like I said, it all depends on your positioning and your playstyle. Me personally, I just like No Pity, No Mercy for the reasons I mentioned, but if you can position yourself, if you have a stationary single target mob and the tank is set up and you can place yourself behind the mob, you don't have to run No Pity, No Mercy. You can run Flames of Empowerment or whatever you choose for that matter. As far as the build itself goes, we're going to take Double Scorch, even though I previously mentioned in the video, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The 10% damage to Soul Scorch doesn't matter. Soul Scorch doesn't do a lot of damage in the first place. We are going to take Warlock's Curse, the 10% damage to, excuse me, lesser cursed targets. Now, we are taking Risky Investment. Now, this is the downfall of the Warlock currently, is the ramp-up time to get your stacks of Risky Investment takes way too long. We'll go over this more in the rotation. We are going to take Executioner's Gift for the 20% when HP diminishes. And then finally, we are going to take Soul Spark Recovery, because unlike the AoE build where you're saving your Soul Sparks in a single target, you are going to be using those Soul Sparks because you need to get your recharge speed down so you can stack your Risky Investment. This is the build. Like I said, if you have any questions, be sure to leave me a comment below. We'll move right into the rotation. Alright guys, and this is going to be the single target rotation for the Hellbringer DPS Warlock in Mod 16. It's my personal opinion, as well as the opinion of most Warlocks that play, especially endgame, that unfortunately the ramp up time for the Warlock is its biggest downfall. Your whole build for single target revolves around Risky Investment, and unfortunately it just takes so long to ramp it up to 5 stacks. We're not equipped with our encounters properly to stack out our Risky Investment buff. And I mean, if you guys are running Lair of the Mad Mage, you know how the boss battles are right now. The second and third boss, specifically the third boss, is the easiest to get your stacks. The second boss, the Worm, it's just unfortunate because it has too many pauses in it and your stacks of Risky Investment fall off. The first boss, she moves around so often that it's actually very hard to get your stacks on her. You really have to try hard to stack out on her. Now, of course, we're talking about endgame content. If you're talking about previous content, anything before Lair of the Mad Mage, anytime you have a single target that is it's not running around, right? You have a stationary target, it's very easy to do the rotation. But you guys are going to see how long it takes me to actually hit 5 stacks, and then we will unload. So the rotation is going to be, you're going to want to cast your Hellfire Ring, which produces Lesser Curse. Then you're going to cast your Hadars to consume that Lesser Curse, but it's going to spawn a Soul Puppet. Now, it's not going to give you 1 stack of Risky Investment yet, and that's unfortunate. You're going to sprinkle your Hellish Rebuke in there so you can get your Spark Generation. Once you get your Spark Generation going is when you're going to start spamming your Soul Spark to then replenish your Hellfire Ring and your Hadars. You need to do this 6 times total to get 5 stacks of Risky Investment. Then, once you have all that done, you can actually pump out the numbers. That's when you're going to pop your Tyrannical. That's when you're going to pop your Mount Power. That's when you're going to pop your Artifact. I'm going to try to get some hard hits for you guys, but I don't want to sit here for 20 minutes. So let's go ahead. I'll try to do this as fast as I can, but you guys are going to see how long it takes to ramp up. So like I said, you want to move in here. Go ahead, get your combat advantage going. You can clearly see the blue ring there. Cast your Hellfire Ring. Cast your Hadars to consume that. Now your Soul Puppet has been spawned. Cast your Soul Sparks to deplenish your cooldowns. Hellfire's up again. Wait for the cooldown on Hadar. Hadar's up again. Consume that curse. Now we have our first stack of Risky Vesture. You can pop your Killing Flames as it comes up. Go ahead, deplete your Soul Sparks again for your encounter cooldowns. Hellfire Ring's up. Go ahead, pop your Hadars. Now we have 2 stacks of Risky. You can clearly see how long this has taken. Our Soul Spark generation is very fast with No Pity, No Mercy. We have our Hellfire Ring up again. Go ahead, cast Hadars again, Curse Consume. Now we have 3 stacks of Risky. Go ahead, pop your Killing Flames when you can. There's almost a 500k hit right there. Go ahead, deplete your Soul Sparks. Hellfire Ring's up to get the curse on it. Go ahead, cast Hadars to deplete that curse. Now we have 4 stacks of Risky Investor. Rinse and repeat, guys. Rinse and repeat. Go ahead, spam the Soul Sparks. Hellfire Ring's up. Hadar's is up. Now that is 5 stacks. Now theoretically you'd go right into your main rotation. However, I want to make sure that all our stuff is off cooldown here. So here we go. Hellfire Ring. Go ahead, cast one more Hadar's. Cast your TT. Artifact. Everything you have. You have 5 stacks. Boom. Hard hit. Unfortunately it didn't crit. 418. Go ahead. Cast your Hadar's. I don't know if we're going to get this Killing Flames off. Well, we did get the Killing Flames off. It did not crit again, unfortunately. 373. So you can clearly see the ramp-up time is just... It's not good. And that's one of the biggest downfalls to the Warlock right now, unfortunately. And it is what it is. And the sheer fact that our hardest hitting ability is just so unpredictable. Your Killing Flames will do anywhere from 10,000 damage to 1 million damage. And it's always been like that. It's very unreliable. There's another non-crit for 400k. We're really getting unlucky now that I'm filming. Usually I can hit 800k. Keep in mind that's with me using old weapons as well. So I'm trying to maintain our 5 stacks here. My action points is almost filled up. See, there's a 635k. Keep in mind, like I said, that's without the weapons. If I had one of the new weapon sets on this guy, I'd be hitting for over 1 million. So let's maintain our stacks here. We're almost full action point gains. We'll go one more rotation just to show you guys. So now we have full AP. Let's just wait for the cooldowns here and we'll start the rotation. So Hellfire Ring, Hadar's, Artifact, Mount, TT. Go ahead and pop that Killing. There you go. 722. That would be well over 1 million crit if I had the new weapons. So go ahead. Use your Soul Sparks. And one more. And the 542 Killing Flames. So the damage potential is there. The problem with the Warlock is that the ramp up time is an absolute joke. When you have Rogues, Rangers, and Wizards that are all pure DPS classes, they really don't have a ramp up time. They can go right in there and start bursting down the boss. That's the downfall with the Warlock right now. Hopefully they do some changes, but you guys can clearly see that the single target rotation, it just takes way too long to get those 5 stacks of risky. So that's going to be your rotation for single target. Let's go ahead and close out the video. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. That is going to be my Mod 16 build and guide for the Hellbringer DPS Warlock in Mod 16. It's not for everyone. However, if you strive to be in that top 1 percentile, this is what you want to focus on. This is what you want to build toward. We already know that changes are coming in Mod 17 as far as gear and stuff. However, if there's any more class balancing, that's going to be up to the company. The Warlock, in my own personal opinion, needs still a lot of work to it. It's not a competing DPS class. I can keep up with Rogues and Rangers and Wizards and Lair the Mad Mage. However, a top 1% Rogue or Ranger is almost 90% going to out DPS me. And it's because, you know, you're not doing anything wrong as a player. The Warlock is just a hybrid class. It's not a pure DPS class anymore. There's a lot of broken things. There's a lot of broken mechanics with the Warlock specifically. I just showed you guys stacking out on single target with risky investment. It's just, it's not synergized very well, unfortunately. Anyone that's played a Warlock for long term knows the struggles that we've had in the past, you know, with broken stuff. And unfortunately, the Warlock is just one of those classes that does not get a lot of love. I don't understand why. So this is my Mod 16 stuff. I know you guys have been waiting for it for a while now. It is now finally released. If you guys have any questions, as always, please leave me a comment below. I will try to answer any comments and any questions. There will be timestamps in the video so you can navigate to whatever part of the video you want. I know this video was long, but this was the first build and guide that I put out after the class rechanges, the class balances, the companion changes. So yeah, it's a very long video, but it was an in-depth video. Like I said, if you're not a player that can afford loadouts, there are some things you can do. Like I said, you don't want to worry about getting a lightning enchantment. You want to just go ahead for that Vorpal. If you made it this far in the video, give me a hashtag Warlock's Rule in the comments. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, you have any comments or concerns, go ahead and leave them below. I'll see you guys in the next video.